Hello and welcome to my podcast. This is Sheelaa M Bajaj and I'm a numerologist, a tarot card reader, and I'm a life coach, a motivational speaker. I've been doing this for the last 18-20 years professionally, but I started out my journey when I was just out of school. I started out as a healer out of curiosity and my left brain thinking there has to be more to this than what meets the eye. And then I moved into learning everything in a more structured way. And then again, I got rid of structure. So I've walked this path for many, many years. And now I take the role of mentoring and guiding people who are on crossroads of life. So I do one-on-one consults with people who come to me. I do radio shows. I've written a book, authored a book called The Love Mirage, which is on relationships. I've also facilitated a lot of classes and I do one-on-one coaching with a lot of people in business, CEOs, people in jobs, people in IT companies, people who have absolutely no idea what their purpose is. So this is where I'm at, and I also work extensively with numerology. I also practice magic, and I use the power of herbs, oils, roots to create magic products. So this is all of what I do, and I love talking, I love speaking, and I love empowering people. That's my calling. And I think it's very important for each person to sort of find their calling. So this is episode 3, and we're going to talk about honoring yourself. And like I was saying, it's very important for people to do and find and then practice what their calling is. And so here it is. This is my calling. I love speaking. I love empowering people. And here I am doing this because I love it. Honoring yourself. This was a topic that I decided to do for today's podcast. And honoring yourself is loving yourself. Now, when I tell people in consults or when I'm doing coaching for people and I tell them about honoring yourself or loving yourself, it almost seems like a very abstract concept. It seems like a concept that is just not, how do you love yourself? Okay, I love myself. I'm going to keep telling myself I love myself. So when I heard that concept of loving yourself, it just seemed so superficial. Like, how can I really love myself more? So a lot of people who hear about loving themselves find it very difficult to practice. And I know because there was a point in my life or a point in my life when I was getting out of a relationship and, just figuring out who I was. I realized that I didn't really love myself. And this concept of loving yourself is very easy to understand or, okay, I love myself theoretically. But practically, we really don't know what it means. So loving yourself or honoring yourself is really not about just saying, I love myself and I love myself 10 times. It doesn't work like that. Loving yourself truly is about honoring yourself. What is honoring yourself? A lot of times we listen to things that people say. A lot of times we make choices that were not ours. We do things to make people happy. We compromise in relationships. We bite the bullet. All of this is not honoring yourself. A lot of times we end up doing more for our family and not doing for ourselves. A lot of times we make choices based on, I'm not going to spend this much money on myself, but I don't mind spending it on someone else. That's not honoring yourself. So we first have to understand what not honoring yourself is when you consider the other more important than yourself. And a lot of times this becomes like a habit because it's sort of ingrained in our consciousness from when we were little that it's good to give and it's bad to receive. We were almost told that it's bad to be self-centered, selfish. So, this is a movement. Moving from a space of I am the least important person in my life to I am the most important person in my life is a journey, is a paradigm shift. It's not going to come easy for anyone who's listening to this. Now, I do this with my study group. After people consult me, they get to be on a study group. And I do a lot of audios for the study group. Now I have this podcast, which everyone has access to. So, honoring yourself is really a journey. It's not like just changing, one portion of your furniture. It's not like just changing one laminate piece or one piece of wood in your furniture. It's changing the whole interior, stripping things off the walls, the floor, the ceiling, scraping off all the old and building a new. And that's really like a complete makeover of your life. It's like a complete renovation of your being. And I'm going to say that a lot of times people think they honor themselves, but they really don't. Because honoring yourself is not just about, putting yourself first. What does it really mean to put yourself first? What does it really mean to come first before anyone else? Honoring yourself is also saying, I've had enough. Honoring yourself is doing what means a lot to you, is eating your favorite food, is taking a holiday when you know you have to. Honoring yourself is giving what your body asks for, is doing stuff for yourself. It's like going out on your birthday and buying yourself a birthday gift. And I think that concept is so bizarre and abstract in our culture, especially in India. It's so abstract because it's just not common. You're almost looked at as a weird person or a bad person if you thought about yourself first. So if you think about yourself first, it's almost looked at as a wrongness or a fault, that she is so self-centered, greedy, selfish. All of these words come into play. And no one wants to be that. Everyone wants to be good. Everyone wants to be the good guy, the good kid, the good everything. So everyone wants to do things for other people and put themselves last. It's almost, even in our movies and in all our soaps and all our, our TV serials and all of that, sitcoms, in every one of these places, it is shown and demonstrated how the woman who's the martyr, the victim, the one who sacrifices everything, the mother who, even in our movies, they always show the mother who's like the martyr, who gives up everything for her children, family, and for her husband. So these people are glorified. They have pathetic lives, but they're glorified and they're made to look larger than life. They were so good. And I'm going to tell you that everyone loves to be that. They love to play victim, and they love to say that I didn't do this for me, I didn't do that for me, but I did this for my family. And such people are worshipped. And there are a few great people who did that, who leaded very selfless lives. And they became great and they became wow. So then there are these schools, and then there's our teachers, then there's our parents and everyone who's teaching us to be that. But I want to ask everyone who's listening, does that really work? Does that make you feel a sense of enjoyment and fulfillment? Really, what are we here for? What are we living this life for? Are we really here to just do things for other people? And what happens to you? Who does that to you? Who nurtures you? So nurturing yourself is a very important aspect of this journey, which we most oftenly, we give it the least priority. Nurturing, like how we nurture our children. We feed them, we give them love, we give them attention, we give them time. We give them things that make them happy. So nurturing yourself is a very important part in the journey of life. And nurturing yourself could be nurturing a hobby, could be buying yourself flattering clothes, could be just eating your favorite food. Also, honoring your body is a very important aspect of nurturing yourself. A lot of times our body has certain needs which we just we put it aside. I'm not talking about cravings and temptation. There are lots of different needs our body has. Sometimes a massage is one of them, and we tend to ignore that. So nurturing oneself is very, very important. That keeps you going, that keeps you happy. That creates a spark and a radiance and a sparkle that comes out of you. People who truly love and honor themselves, they radiate joy because your cup is full and you're overflowing. And you always want to be a person who's overflowing. You always want to be a person. So you don't have to do anything for anyone. They will receive nurturing, love, care from the overflow of the love that you give yourself. People learn to love themselves when they see you. And I'm going to tell you that I was one person who put myself last all the time. I definitely put myself last. When I had my first child, I used to find maybe one small window of time when I would just find some excuse to get out of home because I was a full-time mom. And it was very, very stressful to take care of a little infant. And I just felt like motherhood is just not my scene. And, I would just somehow sneak out and go buy myself a cold coffee. And that's just my favorite thing. A cafe frappe, those days, that was my favorite drink. And I would just sneak out of the house, sit in a coffee shop all alone, and sip that coffee. And eventually, when I started doing a lot of spiritual learning, teaching, I just started practicing. I mean, I didn't have all of these tools. I was not a life coach and I didn't know all these concepts. But I would just, if I love watching movies, and I would just find a window of time when I would just again sneak out or just, tell my mom, I'm going to go watch a movie. And sometimes I would go alone because I didn't have friends or I didn't have company. And lots of your friends had husbands or boyfriends, and it was just very, weird to ask them to come along. So I would just go alone. And I think that gave me the strength and a different sort of an energy, because you're sitting alone. Lots of times it would be a funny movie and I would be sitting alone, eating popcorn, probably sipping on a drink, laughing my heart out in a funny movie. So a lot of times doing that for yourself and with yourself is very, very important. Honoring yourself to begin with has to start with building a relationship with yourself. And I'm going to tell you that none of us have a relationship with ourselves. That's a very important part of our life's journey. You want to be successful, you want to have great money, you want to do all of that. What happens? What is your relationship with yourself? How do you treat yourself? How do you view you? How do you nurture you? How do you honor you? How do you love you? The people whom you honor the most give you the most, like their best performance or their best everything comes out. It's like when you praise a child, when you nurture a child, when you spend time with it, or when you do something that's fun for the kid, you'll always see the best come out. So what are you doing for you? A lot of times we give that onus of making us happy on someone else. We sort of dump it on someone else. It's like, you have to take me shopping, you have to take me for a movie, the husband has to take you out for dinner, he has to do something special for you. Have you done something special for yourself? That's where you need to start. What is your relationship with yourself? Have you bought yourself clothes? Have you gone shopping and said, okay, today is my me day and I'm going to spend some quality me time for myself? So if that means going and eating alone, that means shopping your favorite clothes for yourself or watching a movie, whatever is fun for you. To some that might be the most boring thing, and maybe, going for a game is more important, or watching cricket is more important. Whatever is your thing. What are you doing to nurture yourself? What have you done to build a relationship with yourself? Once you build a relationship with yourself, you'll start to see a different dimension unfold. It's almost like a certain part of you comes alive. And you have to practice it to understand what I'm telling you. So honoring yourself is also the willingness to sort of, is also putting yourself first, and also learning to say no. Because a lot of times when people ask you to come and pick them up from the airport, you can't say no. And this is an Indian thing, I think. I really, really wish that everyone had the openness and the putting yourself first that other cultures have. It's almost like the only help you're going to get is at the end of your own arm. And that's something that I see predominantly in different cultures. But I don't see that in India. I see that you have to live your life for other people. So learning to say no is the first step to honoring yourself. Is when something is uncomfortable for you, you have to put yourself first and say, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. Or I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sorry, I won't be able to do it. However you say it with kindness, but honoring yourself is very important. Honoring yourself is also doing stuff that you really love doing. A lot of times we give up these certain things, for the sake of husband, wife, kid, family, parents, or work. We give up a hobby. We give up our favorite food because it's just easier to cook what's favorite for the kids or the husband. We give up going to our favorite place because the wife or the kids want to go to a different place. So every person in their space is giving up something for everyone else. Why can't we have it all? Why can't we live in a world where we need to figure out, okay, this is what I want to do, guys, and we'll do what you want to do also. Or we take turns, or we do it all. But you have to put yourself first. That's honoring you. When you don't honor you, you are starving. You are empty. You cannot radiate a sparkle when you're empty. And honoring yourself comes with small things. It's learning to say no. It's to stand up for yourself. It's when someone's putting you through when someone's saying something that you don't want to listen to, is saying, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for your opinion. Sometimes it's about even, a lot of Indians, a lot of women also, they grapple with this mother-in-law issue. When their mother-in-law is really mean to them, and because they want to save their marriage, they cannot say what they have to say. And really honoring yourself is being willing to stand up for yourself and saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. And this is something I learned a few years ago, is really letting go of all fear, because we're always fearful of losing the marriage. You're always fearful of losing your husband or your wife or your kid. You're willing to lose it all to be more of you. If you're really willing to lose everything in this universe, to have more of you and have a greater life and more phenomenons in your life, you will have it all. But a lot of times we are not willing to lose it all. And this fear of losing that one thing is what creates your biggest weakness. It doesn't let you unleash your full potential. It doesn't let you fully be you, because you're always scared of losing something. What if I tell you right now that there was no consequence to standing up for you? Because that's your only purpose, is to stand up and honor yourself. Nothing can be more important. No relationship can be more important than you honoring you. I can tell you that much. There were times in my life when I did give priority to relationships, holding on to a marriage, holding on to people, holding on to, my weaknesses. Those became my biggest weakness, and that became one of the things that crippled me the most. If I was willing to lose everything to be more of me, I would have probably not even lost what I lost. So when we actually have that fear of losing something or someone, we sort of throttle our own expression, and you've lost yourself anyway. So either way, you're going to lose something. You're either going to lose yourself, or you're going to lose that marriage or that person. And is it really worth holding on to a relationship if it doesn't allow you to be you? And this brings me back to my famous question, would you let your kid do that? And I always tell people, you only get perspective when you think of a situation where you put your own kid into it. That makes you take the most objective decision. You can never go wrong if you think about that situation for your child. You can never make a mistake. You'll always make the right decision, because if your child was there, you would be objective. We cannot be objective with ourselves, because comes back to the same thing, we don't love ourselves. We're okay to take nonsense from people because we don't love ourselves. We're okay to bite the bullet because we don't love ourselves. But would we do that to our kid? We love our kids unconditionally, right? So we would never allow them to be bound by a social obligation of marriage, or be scared of losing the marriage and not standing up against the mother-in-law. It's like you would never stand for that if it was your child. So one of the tools that I tell people to use all the time is, when in confusion, when you're not able to take that decision, when you're gripped by a fear of losing someone, something, think of that yourself as your child. If my daughter or son had to go through this, what would I advise them? And be honest with yourself, because I'm not going to be able to pull you out of every situation, guys. It is something that you have to, bring, because see, really, you implementing the stuff that I talk about is going to create more in your life. It's not going to do anything for me. When you create your life, and when you come back, when people write to me, when people, find me on Facebook and tell me that, Sheela, this changed my life. Just listening to this changed my life. My relationships are better. It gives me a sense of, wow, this was the impact I was able to create. So really, choose for you. Do it for you. Don't do it because I told you to. Choose all of this because you're doing it for you. And remember, if you have a child who's watching you not honor yourself, your child's going to replicate you. Your child's going to become an exact copy or version of you. And I want you to look at your parents and see which parent did you end up mimicking. You ended up becoming like one of your parents. And most oftenly, we end up becoming like the parent who sacrificed. Very few people go to the other end of the spectrum and become the opposite. Sometimes we end up becoming the opposite of what the parent that we resonated most with. So it just depends, but most oftenly it is, if you have a parent who's not honoring herself, not honoring himself, sacrificing, compromising, very, very likely those traits are going to be in you. Not because it's genetically passed down, because energetically you saw these patterns and you saw that was the only way to be and you became like that. So if you are a wife tolerating abuse, tolerating dominance, tolerating blah blah blah, or compromising, biting the bullet, doing something to keep the marriage alive, in all likelihood your daughter or son is going to become the same. Now when I tell people this, they sort of like it makes them wake up from some deep slumber and make better decisions. They end up vocalizing their thoughts, they end up speaking up a little bit, because then they say, okay, I don't want my kid to become a version of me. So it's this whole kid example really helps people and gives them perspective, even though it's not really the best way to do it, but it does. So recapping with whatever we spoke in today's podcast is honoring yourself, little things, standing up for yourself, saying no, say this doesn't work for me. Honoring yourself starts with doing little things that mean something to you. Do not expect that from other people. Your happiness is in your own hand. Buying yourself a gift, treating yourself on a birthday, spending a day of just honoring yourself, a movie, ice cream, whatever is something that's fun for you. A hobby, nurture yourself, praise yourself, acknowledge yourself when somebody praises you or when you do something great. Also looking at all of your strengths and what you've achieved. Learning to receive from people is a part of honoring yourself. So honoring yourself is really a bigger game, a very, very big game, and it's a journey. And it doesn't happen with just saying, I love myself. Honoring yourself goes beyond. Honoring yourself is, I come first and I'm very important in my life. It's the way you would honor your kid. So I'm going to wish everyone who's listening to this a beautiful beginning to honoring yourself. Write to me. Tell me what you did to honor yourself. Tell me how this podcast, this episode made a difference to you. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to comment on it. I'd love for you to share it with your friends. Share this link if you know of someone in your life who needs to learn how to honor themselves. Your mom, your dad. Parents most oftenly forget to honor themselves. Getting yourself something really important, doing something for yourself, taking that holiday, whatever it is, whatever is that one thing that you've always wanted to do, getting a tattoo perhaps, getting your hair colored, crazy things, right? Don't judge it. It doesn't matter. Honoring yourself comes with small things that mean something to you. So share this podcast, comment, write to me on sheela@sheela.com. I would love to hear from you. Love to hear how this episode made a difference to your life. I would love to hear what it meant to you and what it brought alive in your life. I would love to know what it sparked in you and how it changed your perspective of how you view yourself. So write to me and I'd love to hear from you. The next episode I'm going to address on receiving and what it means to receive. And for now, this is Sheelaa Bajaj signing off. I hope you liked this episode.